this lesson we're going to cover a lot of geometry terminology. Some of the terms you may have heard before, and some may be new. Make sure you write down any of these symbols that you're unfamiliar with. The angle symbol, degree symbol, right angle is usually a box, perpendicular is the upside down T. When writing a segment, we use a bar across the top of 2 letters. For a ray, it's an arrow that always points to the right, where the first letter is the vertex. For a line, we use any 2 points on the line. And little m stands for measure. When naming an angle, you need 3 letters, where the second letter is always the vertex. The number 2 in this problem is not an angle measurement, it's a way to name the angle. For that last problem, you cannot use the numbers 3 and 4 to name angle MHT. We also cannot use a single letter to name any of these angles because there can only be 2 rays in an angle in order to use a single letter. For this problem, we need to name a segment, so we need 2 letters with a bar across the top. You could also go in the other direction to name it. Write this down. A linear pair are 2 angles that are side by side. They share a common vertex, a common ray, and create a straight line. When seeing problems that are linear pairs, the equation that we will use is adding the 2 angles together and setting them equal to 180. Let's look at some examples. Set up the equation where the 2 angles add up and equal 180. And then solve. Supplementary angles are 2 angles that add up to 180 degrees. They do not have to be side by side, sharing a common vertex, although they might. Here's one example where the 2 angles are supplementary, but they do not share a common vertex. Here's an example where the 2 angles are also a linear pair, but these are also called supplementary. So we're going to add up the angles and put them equal to 180. And then you would solve this problem. Pause the video so that you have time to solve this before going on to the answer. This one has no picture. The measure of angle 13 is 47 degrees. Find the measure of angle 14. Here's the equation that you would use, but some of you just know to do the problem in your head and say 180 take away 47. Take the time to write this example down. Pause the video if you need to. In order to do this problem, I like to think of it as what's the first angle and the second angle. The first angle we don't know, so we'll call that our x. But then it talks about that one of them is 46 degrees more than its supplement. 46 more than means I'm going to add that number to the first angle. To create my equation, I know that these are supplementary. So I'm going to add these 2 angles up and put them equal to 180. Pause the video and see if you can solve the problem before seeing what the answer is. Make sure that you realize that the question wants you to find the measure of both angles. So substitute the 67 back into your equations to find the 2 angles. Complementary angles are 2 angles that add up to be 90. They might share a common vertex or they might not. Take the time to write down this example. What we're going to do on this one is add the 2 angles and set them equal to 90 degrees. Pause the video and see if you can solve this problem before checking your answer. Take the time to write this example down. On this one I like to do the same that we did before. What's my first angle and my second angle? One of them I don't know, so I'll call it my x. And for the other one it says that it is 16 degrees less than the complement. Less than is going to switch the order. The less than is going to switch the order, so it'll be x minus 16. Now let's make that an equation. We're going to add the 2 angles and this time put it equal to 90. Pause the video and see if you can solve this problem on your own before checking your answer. Remember that the question wants you to find the measure of both angles, so substitute this back in. Vertical angles are two angles that share a common vertex and their sides form two pairs of opposite rays. It creates an X. Here's an easy example. What's the value of X? That'd be 76. Let's look at some other examples. So these angles are across from each other. They share a common vertex and they create that X if we were to trace it. So we put the two values equal to each other. Pause the video and see if you can solve this problem on your own. These two angles are also vertical angles, so we put them equal to each other. Pause the video and see if you can work the problem out before seeing what the answer is. An angle bisector cuts an angle into two congruent angles. So in this problem I've got an expression, and those little red arcs are showing me that the angles are congruent. So in this problem I would put them equal to each other. There are some times where they'll give you the measure of the entire angle, and you'll have to chop the entire angle in half in order to find one of the smaller angles.